Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Karen from Close to My Heart, and we are going to have fun building a layout together today. Before we get started though, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, and be sure to turn on those bell notifications. That way you'll be notified every time we upload a brand new video. So what I thought we'd do today is tell the story of my very first home. You can tell I have brought a lot of products to the video studio with me today because it's always hard to know exactly what you're going to want or need when you're building a layout. But I thought I'd tell you a little bit about what I did bring. I thought a little bit about the journaling, what I wanted to do, what I wanted the layout to look like, just a basic plan, and the photos I wanted. And that's something I wanted to just take a second and talk about. This is a photo of my mom and dad and I. I am the oldest, and I was born while my dad was getting his doctorate degree at West Virginia University. And my parents lived in a tiny little house owned by a lady named Mrs. Shively, and she was a widow, and they lived in her attic apartment. And this is how I imagine that house may have looked, although they have no pictures of that house. But they've told me stories about coming home at night. My mom was a school teacher and my dad was in school, and they would climb the stairs up to their little attic apartment. There was no air conditioning. And if you know West Virginia, you know how hot and humid it is. And they would just sit up there and die of heat stroke. I was born and brought home to that little attic apartment. And so I wanted to tell the story of that. I've actually scrapbooked almost all the homes I've lived in, which is a lot. I've lived in 9 different states. So I have scrapbooked about a lot of the places I've lived, but not this house. And my mom and dad loved this little lady that they rented from. They called her Grandma Shively. And so my whole life I've heard stories about Grandma Shively, even though I have no memories of her. We moved away when I was 1 year old, right about this age right here. So those things that I just shared with you are things that I have already typed up to journal on this page. Also, I have no photo of the house, and so I went online and Googled 1950s West Virginia homes. I was born in the 60s, in the mid 60s, but the house that Mrs. Shively lived in, I think, was probably built in the late 40s or early 50s. So this is what I found. I do know it was a white house, and in my journaling, I talk about that this isn't the exact home, but this is how I imagine it for my parents' stories. So I printed those 2 photos because they go with the story I'm telling, and then decided to draw myself just a simple little sketch of an idea of how this page could go together. I also did some die cutting. I cut out some letters that say my first home. So I'll use those along the title, but I also wasn't sure if it was going to feel a little too long across the page. So I brought a few other options, like an alphabet if I want to combine that into my journaling or my title. And I also brought this set. I thought the word us might be cute to use on there. And also notice there was a my on there in case my title's too long. I could use my, this small little my. And then I also brought this stamp, which I love. It's a stamp that has little houses on it and trees, and I think it will be perfect for what I'm scrapbooking today. So I did stamp a few things ahead of time of this that I thought might go with my story. I stamped a few houses. There are 2 different houses in that stamp set, a dragonfly, some hearts, a couple of trees. And then I also brought paper that goes with that has houses on it and lots of fun designs. This paper is a special here at Close to My Heart. So depending on when you watch this video, I don't know if it will still be available, but any paper could scrapbook a home. I just thought this one was a perfect way to do it because of the little houses. And as I was looking at all the papers in that collection, this sweet little floral print with the tiny little white blossoms on it really stood out to me. I love that one. So I want to make sure I use that on my layout. And you can tell as I drew myself a sketch, my basic idea here is just that I'll have like a basic area on the page, the 2 4x4 photos kind of in the middle, a title below, and then I just drew some banners back behind. Maybe I'll try and just do some banners out of some of these cute prints. I brought cardstocks in all of those colors too, so that I have those to draw on. And after I drew my sketch, I thought, how am I going to fit that story on this page? Do I need to come up with a different idea for this page? And then I thought, why not make this a pocket? And so I did type up my journaling and put it on a tag. I think I typed it up in a couple of different colors, which brings me to one more thing before we get started. this little box that sits on my desk. Whenever I cut pieces that I don't use, or maybe I'm cutting pieces I am going to use, and while I'm cutting on my Cricut or die cutting machine, I'll just cut a few extras. And in here, I have all kinds of usable shapes you can see. So there's a tip for you, but I threw that journaling in here. So I did it on a white piece and a honey butter piece so that I can choose which one I decide is going to look better. I didn't pick any of the other colors. I just thought the yellow would be easy to read it on. So you can see what I mean. I've just got this little box that I keep full of pieces, and I brought that down with my journaling in it, and who knows, maybe we'll use some of those pieces. Okay, so what I want to do is get started, and I mentioned I want to use this yellow paper, so I'm going to pull out the yellow for sure. And other than that, most of this in the background will probably be a cardstock just so that my photos will really shine. But all these little banners will probably be pattern paper. I definitely am going to want to use the houses as one of those patterns, and then I'll just play and see what else stands out to me as I start going. Something I do quite often on my layouts, whether I'm on a process video or designing here at work or at home, is I love the look of a pattern piece of paper as a base with a piece of cardstock on top. So you see that pattern around the edge of the page, but it doesn't compete with those photos as much. So because I love this yellow, which is funny because yellow is usually not one of my favorite colors, but I love this pattern. I'm just going to cut the zip strip off and see if I can work that out to be my base page and have a bit of an edge really poking out of that yellow there. So maybe I'll grab white to go on top of that, some white cardstock. And then we can get going on our base page. And if I decide I don't love that, I can always change that, right? I think I'll take off 3/4 of an inch. That'll leave me a nice border around the edges to really be able to show off those flowers. Kind of see. So I can still see those cute little flowers, but I don't put I'm not putting my photos directly on top of those flowers. One thing that is probably hard to see on camera is that all of the line work in this paper is, instead of black, it is a dark navy. It's called sapphire for us here at Close to My Heart. So instead of using black in my stamping or accents, I brought a bunch of sapphire things down with me. I brought a few different stamp pads to use, some distress oxide pads in colors that are in these papers. And I even brought some sapphire cardstock to use that maybe I actually cut that title. I cut that title out of sapphire thinking that that would really stand out. So I'm just going to start cutting strips of paper here and making some banners. I'm thinking probably 4 or 5 inches would be the longest I would do one. So I'll just maybe vary these cuts between 1 inch and 1.5 inches and see how that all turns out. This side might be pretty to do one on too. Maybe I'll just cut them all 5 inches and then maybe just play with the lengths as we go. Let's see. What other ones might I want to use? This is a pretty one. I think I'll use this rainbow print too. Set these aside a little bit. Just cutting that zip strip off. Here at Close to My Heart, all of our pattern papers have zip strips on them, and they're awesome for borders and things. And they're approximately about a 1/2 inch, but not always exactly. So you could see me kind of moving it around in my trimmer a little bit, and that's why, because I just wanted to make sure I cut it right on the line there. That first one with the houses, I did 1.5 inches wide because I really want those houses to show. This one I did 1.25 inches. Maybe I'll grab a couple and do 1 inch wide. What's on the back of that rainbow? Let's see. Oh, it's this rainbow. I think that might be a little more bold than I want on a banner. This one I like a lot. This has little, they look like X's, but they're actually little dragonflies. I think I'll do this one 1 inch wide. That side's cute too. It's kind of like a checkered pattern. See if there's any others. I want to just cut a few strips out of here. Maybe this yellow. Do one of this yellow. Okay, I'm just going to start laying things out and see how it looks like it's coming together. So let me grab those photos. Title that I had. Let's see how it's going to fit. Like I said, it might be too long going across. I don't know, but I brought options. And I don't even have a lot of memories, well, any memories as a baby in West Virginia, but later in my life, we lived in Kentucky and not too far from West Virginia. And I went to visit West Virginia a few times, and I loved that I had that opportunity because I think that it's nice to kind of have a little bit of a connection with the place you're born. It's cute. Don't know if I like how long it is. I think I want it to fit inside those photos. So maybe I'll stamp my on something. And before I start dovetailing, I'm just going to play with these strips a little bit and see how things start to come out. I think those will be cute if they are just different lengths and span across. So I'm just going to dovetail those. And I'm going to show you a little dovetail trick. You take your strip and go halfway across. This is an inch, so it's easy to eyeball. And just make a little cut right in the center of your strip. And then go from the outside corner up to the top of that little cut on either side. And you end up with a perfect little dovetail. So I'm just going to dovetail all of these. All right, let's start putting that together, maybe. See how that's turning out. I don't like to glue things down until like the very end because I may think of other things I want to tuck back behind or add that would be hard to do if I get it too done all at once. I'm liking that so far. And if I do the first home in the blue, maybe I want to matte those in the blue, the dark blue. Let's flip that and see how that looks. Let's see how it looks. I like that. I think I'm going to do a really thin matte though, because I don't want that blue to take over too much. So instead of a 1/4 inch mat, which I think is pretty standard for most people, I'm just going to cut it at 4 1/8 inch square. Those are 4 by 4 photos. And that way it'll just have a tiny little mat around it. See how that looks. You can tell this is a very old photo. I actually took a picture of a picture for this photo, which sometimes gives you a much better photo than if you use the original because you can use your phone to do some editing, which I did. I lightened the photo just a little bit and darkened the blacks a little bit so it was a little more bold. Okay, I'm really liking what's happening here. We've got my home. I stamped some of those cute houses. I think I might want to try and use one of those. Oh, we're going to do first home, that's right. I brought some colored pencils to color with because I thought this felt so soft it might be fun to color with colored pencils. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm liking how that's going, and maybe I could do a house on either side. And then this one's the one I said was going to be a pocket. Let's just see. Well, depending on what I do in the background, the yellow might be better. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the background here. Okay, so I'm just going to move this out of the way and bring those houses in and do some coloring. And there were 2 houses in that stamp set. This one looks more like my house and has a little attic apartment, so maybe that's the one I'll go with. And I'm just going to do a little bit of coloring here. There's a color in this kit that is really dominant called Melon, and I do not have a colored pencil in that color. What I do have, Melon is kind of like a coral color. I do have pink and orange, and I can mix those together to probably get Melon. And let's see, what other colors are in here that I like in the kit? There was a green, but it's more of a muted green, so maybe I'll grab a gray pencil to mix with that. And maybe I want those windows to have lights on. Okay, we'll start with that. And I kind of want the house to read like it's white, like the one that I got to live in. So maybe I'll just do mostly trim. So I'm going to just start with the orange on the trim here. Do a little bit of coloring. And I don't know if you've ever thought about mixing colored pencils, but you really can create whatever color you want with them instead of having to buy tons and tons of the same kinds of colored pencils in different colors. You can really get the color you want yourself. So let's see how this turns out, if I can get it to look like this melon color. See how it's already looking more of a coral just by adding a little pink on top of that orange. That's pretty. And also shading, I think, is kind of a fun trick. I want the house to look white, but I am going to take a gray pencil, just shade a tiny bit like the shadows are there so that it gives this house a little bit more life. And I guess this is a pencil tip I would say is one of the most important pencil tips if you're coloring with colored pencils. Barely touch the paper. You really want it to be very soft. You can always add more color and layer it, but you can't really take it away very well unless you have colored pencils that erase well. So you can see how I'm just barely adding any color because I want it to just look shadowed a little bit, not like it's a gray house. And I'm just going to continue to color this house and this one and see if I can use those on either side of my title maybe. Yeah, I'll color a tree. This photo has a bunch of trees around the house, so I think I'm going to color a tree or two. A tip for coloring when you're going in a shape other than a straight line, like you can see these trees are rounded, color in the shape of what you're coloring so you can see those rounded shapes and it will help it look a lot more blended. And if you put the most pressure on the part that you want darkest and then lift as you go in, you'll get a natural shading happening there. You can see how the edges of that tree are a little darker. Leaving just a little border around the outside because I think that hides a lot of cutting mistakes. It's hard to cut perfectly along a line, whereas if you cut just slightly off the line, it helps things pop a little more on your art, and it also hides any mistakes if it's not perfectly cut. Okay, let's bring that page back in and see if I can use those guys on either side of my title. And I've got to figure out the word my still. I guess I could just leave it first home, but it really is my first home. It's not my parents' first home. They actually lived in Utah for a while before they went to West Virginia. I need a my. And I have that little box with me. I think I'm going to grab a circle and see how that looks. That one's tiny. That might be good. There's one a little larger. And let's grab those stamps that I've hidden somewhere. Here we go. We've got an alphabet. That looks like it would be too big. And I don't think I want much bigger than these circles. So let's see how big this one is. This one would fit nicely, I think. Maybe on this larger circle. So I think I'll stamp that in sapphire so it matches the rest of the title. Just gonna put something colored under it so I can see the edges and center it. Use my sapphire stamp pad. See how that looks. A little darker than my letters right now, but that will lighten as it dries. I think it'll turn out just right. I like that a lot. Okay, I feel like because I've got the my right there, this house and tree is a little big. I'm going to try just cutting out that inside house, the little pop out on the house. We'll just let it look like a little guy house. There we go. Hopefully it's going to look good so I don't have to start over on my house. That's cute. I like that. It balances out the my being on this side. I just am feeling like the back needs a little personality, and I did bring some oxide inks, some distress oxide inks in a few different colors that were in this kit. I like how this color here, the pinky peachy melon color, is standing out. So I think I'm going to try this abandoned coral. And I brought a few different blending brushes down. As you can tell, I have a blending brush for just about every color. So I'm going to use the one that will work with this. And I think I'm going to just do a little bit of adding some ink in the background here. I think that will add a little personality to my page. You always want to daub it off, or else you can see what it would have looked like on my page. I think I might want a little bit coming out from behind this photo. Might add a little personality. I love that. So I might want to follow a diagonal line a little bit here and maybe have some coming out over here on the side. So I'm just going to move that over a little. That peek out over here. Yep, I'm liking how this is turning out. I'd even almost be ready to start gluing things down. That my feels a little stark. Maybe I'll just hope there's enough ink on here that I can just daub that a little bit and get a little bit of that pearl color on there without smearing anything that might not be dry yet. That softened it a little bit. Okay. I think I'm about ready to start putting things down. So I'm just going to move these out of the way, all that, and start putting down these strips that we created. Just going to keep my pictures nearby so that I can easily decide how wide that needs to be. Go ahead and put them on their mats. I feel confident about that. I like that little skinny edge. That's a great way to have something pop without it taking over, is to cut something just 1/8 of an inch larger to get that feel of a mat without it being too big. So I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive in the center of each one so that I can easily move it around if I need to. So I'm just not measuring anything. I'm just throwing things together here. I want some shorter and longer, I think, so, oh, that's not very straight. Straighten that out a little. The next step would be to put these on and make my pocket here. I wonder what it would look like if I put a zip strip. That's cute to create a little border, isn't it? Like that. Let's see. I have a few zip strips I can cut off. Let's play for a second. Too much of that, I think. I have a sticker sheet I brought down too. Maybe there's something on here. Oh, that might be pretty, this really soft color. But I think I'm just gonna call that a good idea. That's a darling sticker. It's got little tiny daisies on it. I don't know if you can see. Okay, to make this a pocket, I don't know if you've ever made a pocket before, but it's something I do a lot in my pages. Sometimes if I just feel like I don't have enough space to tell a story, or maybe I'm going to be writing something that feels a little bit more private that I just don't want everybody to read, which that doesn't happen very often. I'm not a private person. But that's a great way if you feel like there are things that you don't want everyone to be reading. So you just want to use a foam tape, which will give there a little bit of a lift to put the whatever is going down in there. It could even be another photo or some ticket stubs or something like that. And then I like to use the foam tape that is a little bit thinner. We have some that's a higher foam tape, and I think sometimes when I use that thicker foam tape, things tend to slide out of the pocket because it's a little too thick. That pocket ends up a little too roomy, but that would be perfect. You had a whole bunch of things you were putting in the pocket. All I'm planning to put in this pocket is some journaling. So you just put the foam tape on 3 sides, and then you can see I have a pocket here that I can use for my journaling. Okay, ready to add that pocket. Then my title, I think, can go on. People ask me all the time, why do you draw a sketch? Why don't you just let the photos speak to you? Well, the sketch quite often changes as I go, but I do like to have a starting point. I think it helps me waste less paper that way. And it also helps me to have a general idea of the direction I want to go with things. And so I enjoy having a little sketch to work with too. And then sometimes when you draw the sketch, it will help you go, oh, that's not going to look good. I don't like the balance there. I'm just adding a little more of the ink so that I can have that hiding from just kind of peeking out behind the journaling, whichever one I end up going with. Okay, let's add our title. This is another thing I'll do quite often. I mentioned, that little box that I keep things in. I will even do the same thing with die cuts with stamps or die cuts that are alphabets. I'll just cut a bunch of extra and throw them in the package. And then the next time I go to create, I might even have everything I need. Just need to make sure that ends up kind of balanced here. Okay, I'm ready to add that. I'm working on what we call our all-purpose mat here at Close to My Heart. It's awesome because things just wipe right off, like that adhesive, when I'm putting adhesive on something skinny like that. And I'm so glad I added that little sticker because that line is going to help me make sure I'm getting this title straight. Didn't even think of that, but that is perfect. And I'm just going to go ahead and add my title. Just making sure the tips of them all are just right underneath that sticker that I added. Also, because these are skinny, I'm getting a little bit of adhesive on the top of them. And I have a tool here that's perfect for that. It's called our rub and remove eraser. I think I have it somewhere around here. Yep. It just takes adhesive right off, so I can now go right over the top of where I got a little of adhesive that overlapped onto the tops of those, and just easily just take that right off. Use my head. It's probably right in the screen. I'm just trying to see so I can get this straight. This will be so great to add to my scrapbook. That's another question I get a lot while I'm putting these on. I can talk to you is, what kind of scrapbooks do you do? Do you scrapbook chronologically? Do you have themed books? And the answer is yes to all of that. I do have books. I want to say for every year, but it's more like 3 or 4 books for every year. And then I also have theme books. And I have a book called This Is Me that is just all about my life history and important things in my life. And this will go in that book. And I also have lots of other home ones there. In fact, I have one that's just all the homes my husband and I have lived in since we've gotten married. One layout of all of that. Some of my memories as a child, all kinds of things like that go in my This Is Me. Then I also have a football scrapbook because my father, my husband, and all 3 of my boys played college football. So I have those all connected together in a scrapbook. I have a family history scrapbook that's more like my ancestors. So you can do both. You can scrapbook chronologically and by theme. Sometimes it's hard when you're scrapbooking chronologically if you have something that doesn't fit. Like, for instance, that layout I was talking about with all of our different houses. Which year would you put that in? But since I have a scrapbook that says This Is Us, which is all about our family, then I can just put that in there in the This Is Us book. So I do have both chronological and themed. All right, now I think I'm ready to start adding houses. And the way that it played out, I might want to switch which is on which side because I ended up a little more to the right. Adaptability, right? An important part of scrapbooking. Just going to make that tree a little smaller so that it doesn't poke out the other side. Ooh, cute, cute. And I think I'll put the house on foam tape. So that it pops just a little bit like it's in the foreground and the trees in the background. These houses are so cute. I love this paper. But that's the nice thing about stamps too. If you want a house paper and you can't find a house paper, if you can find a stamp set, which stamp sets with houses in them are quite common, you could always create your own paper by just stamping on cardstock. You guys should see the floor around me. When you scrapbook in the studio shooting a video, things get thrown on the floor. It's faster than you guys having to watch me put it all in the trash can. Okay, let's see. How do I want to position this little guy? really like the tire swing. I'm going to let that poke out. Cutting on that part wasn't great. This is my first mat. I'm struggling to make that straight. There we go. Better. Okay, I feel like it's coming together really nicely. I do feel like the background just needs a little more personality, just a little. I don't want to overwhelm what's happening here, and I really do like this ink, but I think I want a little more coming out from behind this tree. Just carefully lift that and add a little more right here. There we go, better. Okay, I also have with me some metallic markers. And as I'm looking at it, I want a little more going on in this white area, but I don't want it to overwhelm it. So I brought some gold markers down. I tend to keep either spray or metallic markers near me with almost every project because that way I can add little details. I'm just gonna press this marker on my all-purpose mat. Remember we talked about how this thing is so great because you can just wipe things off. I'm just gonna let a bunch of this ink kind of flow out and find myself some scratch paper. Just gonna add some splatters. A little more. There we go. You'll be able to see those just starting to splatter onto my page. I'm just covering up parts I don't want any splatters on. Oh, that's adding some personality already. Just sort of concentrating them around the things I've clustered. So it's like an extra little accent there. This stuff dries really quickly, which is nice. I won't have to worry too much as that sits there about me smearing it. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to my journaling and just about call that a page. Maybe it's time to put this down. Maybe I'm ready to commit to that. Awesome. Loving how that's looking. Now I just need to decide on my journaling and some accessories maybe. Either way will be cute because I added that shadow. Maybe there's something I can put at that top of that sticker. What do I have on this sticker sheet? I mean the top of the tag. What about in the stamp set? Ooh, how about this? There's a stamp in here that says Our Story. That looks like it might just fit. Let's see if it does. I'm just going to season this stamp. I haven't used it before. It's brand new. Ooh, maybe I want to go white so that I can stamp that right at the top and have that in the sapphire like the other things are. Ooh, that is so cute. What if I put a little... I'm just getting carried away now. It's all the details that are the most fun for me. The very end, when it's time to accessorize and add those little details, that's when I get so excited when I scrapbook. Just using one of those zip strips we cut off to go right here at the top. I think it might look really cute poking out of that pocket. Oh, I love that. Okay, now we just want some accessories. I brought down this package that has several of the colors in it that are in the kit, and I think I'll just add a few of these. And then there's some tiny little stickers I was just noticing that might look cute on here too. Maybe I'll start with those and then work those in. These little hearts I think are so cute. Maybe right there. And I had that diagonal going with that ink, so I think I'll carry my accessories the same way. Keep sure I'm moving through the story. Cute. Just looking to see if there's anything else that's speaking to me. Maybe there's a couple of half circle ones that would be cute. If I can still lift that up. Love that. Okay, I'm ready to add a few little accessories. I like to put these on with a piercing tool, but you can just use your fingers, whatever. I think I'll do hearts. I'll carry that heart theme that was in the stickers across. I just put it on the tip of that and then push with my finger and lift it right out. It works great. Little dots. Hey, I better stop before I go too crazy. I feel like it's turned out really nice. I love the story I told, and I love that I'm able to have that preserved for my children and grandchildren. I'll bring this over where you can see it a little more close up. Some of these cute details we created together. I love how that looks. I like this really subtle ink in the background. It's going to make that journaling really pop sitting in that pocket, and these fun little accessories and things pop. And this is just a nice little background, isn't it, behind that title? Okay, I think that'll do it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching me create and maybe hearing some of my creative process. We love that you guys are out there creating too. So in the comments on this video, comment how you would scrapbook maybe one of your homes. Maybe if there's a story that goes with it. We'd love to hear. And just as a reminder, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on those bell notifications so that you can create with me again in the future.